Okay, so usually I show you a game which I won, and we talk about positional imbalances or different structures. This time I'm going to show you a game I lost, and it was a real disappointing loss for me because I was up um, very much, and I blundered away in the end game and lost. My opponent played c4, and I don't play a lot of people that play c4. It's called the English opening, and I'm not familiar with it very much, so I decided I could just generally stick to my basic King's Indian defense here, and I would do okay. I expected him to play d4 at some point after I left d4 open. I played knight f6, just preventing e4, trying to get him to play d4 instead, and then it transposes into a standard King's Indian, which I'm familiar with. My opponent played knight c3, which makes a lot of sense, and I played g6, preparing to fianchetto and castle. I probably at this point could have played e5, but then I would have expected my opponent to play maybe knight f3 or e4, maybe himself, and transposing into king's pawn openings, which I don't like to play right now. So I avoided playing e5 just to stick to my familiar territory. Played g6. My opponent played knight to f3. Notice both of us are neglecting to occupy the center with our pawns, and but that's okay for now. We're going to get there. I played d6, just preventing maybe e5 and e6 and preventing the knight hopping in and things. I like d6 here. It's a flexible move. It puts the initiative back on him, makes him have to make decisions. And he played e4, which I expected at some point he'd probably end up playing e4. It seems like he avoided d4 when it was obvious, which means he's probably going to be playing e4. So at this point, I probably should have pushed c5 or e5, but again, I didn't like the e5. I don't like e5 openings, e4, e5. c5 would have made a lot of sense here. I considered that, but I decided to go ahead with my plan and just fianchetto and castle. My opponent played h3. He was nervous about me bringing my bishop out and taking his knight, which I actually do quite a bit, so I can understand why he wouldn't like that. I went ahead and just castled. I'm sticking to my plan. Now these 5 moves are the same 5 moves I make whether he leads with d4. Pretty much regardless of what he does, I can make these 5 moves in almost any situation and be okay. And that's why it's good. It's a flexible opening, and it leaves me with a lot of decisions I can make. My opponent played d4 here, which isn't a bad move at all. He's occupying the center, and now we're back to looking like a King's Indian with 3 pawns forward. And here I played c5. I went ahead and finished off and played c5. I like to trade here at this point. If he takes my rook's on an open file, imagine takes here, queen takes, rook takes. My rook has the open file here, and I think I've achieved equality, if not better, by having this open file for my rook. Black might be slightly better here, but it's a relatively even game, which is a good place to be as black. So I was hoping he'd play that, but instead he advances with d5, which is a good move. But I don't mind at all. I like closed positions better, and I don't mind being cramped a little bit here. I'm going to expand on the king side rather quickly, generally in this kind of game, and I'll be fine. But I also have pieces here on the king side, and I have options on both sides of the board, so I can just slowly improve my position and wait for my opponent to make mistakes. I went ahead and played e6 here, which isn't usually my style. I wanted to open up just a little bit here in the middle, and then get my bishop out, give my bishop a place to go here. I didn't like my light square bishop being stuck back here in the way with nothing to do. So I wanted to open up a spot for him to sit on e6. My opponent played bishop d3, just holding things together, inviting the trade when he's ready for it. And I played rook to e8 here, so that if we did trade, he couldn't take back with his e-pawn because he'd be in check to take back with his c-pawn. And then I can start working b4 and b5 and c4 and things like that. So that's my idea with rook e8. My opponent castled away, and so I went ahead and initiated an exchange. He takes, and he played c takes, which is good. He keeps the center pawns here strong. Positions are very, very equal here. So I'm going to prepare now a queenside pawn storm like I usually do to attack and cramp his space here, and then we'll initiate some sort of trade. Usually I'll put my queen on b6 behind my pawn and start attacking on the queen side. So this is a standard game for me. I've been in these types of positions a lot of times. I've probably been in this exact position before. My opponent played bishop to g5, attacking my knight here. My knight is strong, attacking these pawns, and he can't play e5. I'll just trade, and so he wants to get this knight out of here, so his pawns are a little bit stronger, which is a good move. I pretty much ignored him and just played b5 here. So I'm attacking his pieces on the queen side. Now I have ideas of playing c4 quick and attacking this bishop and making his light square bishop look very silly. Not only is it a bad bishop behind his light squared pawns, but I'd be pushing it around even farther. Get to back up this way or this way. It's just awkward. There's nowhere good for this bishop to go if I get a chance to play this. B4 is also an option, kicking this knight off of these, and then his e-pawn. I'm sorry, his e-pawn would be hanging. So B5 is a good move here. I think it's best. And my opponent went ahead and took the knight, which I think is a mistake. It gives me a chance whether I take with the bishop here or whether I take with the queen, to pile up on this diagonal and to swing straight through onto his queen side along with my pawns. This is good. I would in that case I'd play C4 here, and then I'd swing through with my bishop. I went ahead and captured with the bishop. I probably should have taken with the queen in hindsight, but I was moving kind of fast, and